I want to begin with gratitude for your invitation to be with you today, whether you are joining us virtually or in person, and to share good tidings from your sibling congregation to the north, Bucksmont UU Fellowship in Warrington, Pennsylvania. I am hopefully self-aware enough to know that I, like my friend and colleague, the Reverend Alex Klinenberg in our reading, is someone who loves change and new ideas. I also know I am someone who appreciates the comforts of a predictable plot, characters I know and love, because they change in ways I already know from reruns, or in ways that are not very dramatic. I believe many of us vacillate between periods of stimulation seeking and times where placidity is what the doctor ordered. My congregation, like yours, goes through these cycles, and there are invitations to both settings most of the time. You can engage with the calming familiarity of holidays and people and patterns you've come to know and love. Or you can engage in the activities of transformation. A good community, and I argue a good life, has both available. Over the past 2 years, there has been a lot of change happening in how we gather, what it means to even be a congregation, and perhaps there have been physical and aesthetic changes happening during this time here, too. In the fellowship I serve, we spent some of the pandemic changing things, painting the sanctuary and adding technology to support multi-platform worship. One change that required a lot of conversation was the selection of a design for a new banner along the roadside in front of our building. The final banner design came about through conversations with our Peace and Justice Committee, along with several other members, about how to balance the need for simplicity as cars drive by and clarity of what we stand for as a community in order to invite in people or cause them to hop onto our website and find out more about us. The banner is brightly colored. It has a chalice on it, and at the bottom is our website. But other than that, it has just 3 words, as large as possible: love, justice, growth. As I noticed around here before the service, you have a similar set of 3 words that reads justice, community, and hope. Now, getting to our 3 words took no small amount of conversation. We are a group and a religious tradition that loves quotes and words. In fact, we love a run-on sentence or a lengthy paragraph if we can fit them in. But the medium doesn't allow for such things if they are to be effective, especially when the target audience is driving along or stopped in traffic for just a bit. So we dropped the sentence structure, and we dropped the tagline. We even dropped our name. And we stuck with just 3 words: love, justice, growth. So much of the pandemic has required things being more complicated, not less. What might it mean to get to the true core of our values as we try to practice what it means to be a Unitarian in a world that is filled with more and more strife? What if these words were the foci of how we approach our religious lives? They clearly reflect values we hold as a tradition, but we've used lots of different words to talk about committed to if we embrace them. So here's the place where you get to participate throughout the service. During this sermon, I will be asking you 3 questions and then pausing after each. My hope is that you have a home or in the room. You won't be asked to share them. The answers are for you. We begin with love, a good place to start if ever there was one. As Universalists, we seek to extend the community wider each time we gather. We intend to be a place that welcomes people as fully as we can. Historically, we went so far as to alter our theology to do away with the concept of hell altogether and embrace universal love. In our present community, I would pose a question to you that centers the idea of love as a guiding principle. Which group of fellow travelers loves you into being? It might be this. The committee you work within, or it might be your closest group of friends here, or those who you are still seeking to build deeper relationships with. But I believe that part of what makes a congregation important in our lives instantly. It doesn't mean that there is no disagreement. However, there should be some smaller circle of people who know us and connect with us. And it is important to reflect on who these people are beyond this society as well. Which group of fellow travelers loves you into being? Who supports you and tells you when you've gone off course? I'm going to pause for a few moments. Think about who these people are. Note them in your phone, on a scrap of paper, or next, we come to justice. Many Unitarian Universalists find our congregations or remain within them because of the work of justice. Either the work they do directly or the work they support indirectly by supporting the congregation as a whole. Our congregations take stands other religious bodies might not. We are a group that shows up for issues some people of faith disagree with. A religious community does not only provide a place of love and support, a place of comfort and predictability, it also provides a place to be challenged and to challenge the larger world. When you find your people, it is then possible to speak more loudly together, to call for the change you want to see in this world. And sometimes the community pulls us along in its wake, and we find ourselves changing too. So my next question is, where does justice call you to transform this world? It might be with one of the programs that you engage in through Mill Creek Social Justice Committee. I hope that is the case. And it might also be that through participation here, you are inspired to do work in your own life beyond these walls or beyond your home. I hope that too is the case. There is more need in this world than any individual and any single congregation can take on. And if we are truly observant of the world around us, we know there is much in need of changing. It might feel like there has been one plot twist after another, from natural disasters to humanitarian ones, from murder hornets of last year to scientists and hedge funds partnering to bring back the woolly mammoth, a real thing being attempted, and the much more dangerous and serious growing war in Ukraine, with millions already displaced. There is a lot of noise in this world, and much of it is more creative and distracting than the best writer's room can come up with. Though I admit to being transfixed myself by the Great British Bake Off and Love is Blind Season 2 in the recent past. So we have the opportunity to pause and be comforted or entertained, but we also have a call to engage in the very real world and its needs too, holding the awareness that we each find our own connection to what needs doing and the passions of our hearts. I ask my second question again. Where does justice call you to transform the world? I'm going to pause for a few moments. Think about an action you can continue or begin or re-begin that feels important to you as a call to justice and transformation. Note it in your phone, on a scrap of paper, or in your own mind. There is one last word on that banner for us to explore: growth. We could have chosen other words like learn or act or community, but instead we have growth. It is organic. It is not necessarily quick. The complete text of our reading today from Reverend Alex also included a quote from Carl Rogers that I wanted to share with you now. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I change. I think the same is true of growth. Some of it unfolds unbidden by us, and some of the most important growth we engage in happens when we are in a place of acceptance. Just when we find equilibrium in our lives, take a breath and feel like we can float for a bit. Then growth happens, and we realize there is some next thing for us to begin. I think this place of growth is what happens when you have the right mix of predictability or stability and stimulation or plot twists in your life. If you have too much stability, one can quickly become stagnant. And if you have too much chaos, it can feel like all you are doing is trying to survive. I believe most of us have had moments of the former at some point, and far too many of us may have felt the latter of late. In between the two, maybe when the waves are calming and we are about to go from struggling to keep up to a time of calm, or when we are sitting there minding our own business and a wave of change comes rushing over the horizon. Then we have growth. We have a period where we need to learn new skills, new technology, or to empathize with those who we may not have noticed as deeply as before. Or we find ourselves allied to people we've just met to do something that needs doing. If we are not careful, though, our times of growth could be mostly reactionary, and some are by necessity. However, other times of growth can be cultivated and guided if we have the tools to do so. Which leads me to my last question. What personal practice guides your growth in life? It could be a writing practice where you reflect on your day each evening, a practice of prayer that reminds you who needs to be thought of beyond your day-to-day life. It could be a movement practice that gets you grounded more in your body so that you can experience what is happening more fully. It could be the conversation over a meal that happens nightly. And it could be something you've been meaning to make time for, but haven't quite yet. This might be the question that stumps you. Many of us do not think about how our practices in life support and connect to our values and our goals. Making space for them might feel like a distraction from more important things, but I believe they in actuality help us integrate and renew ourselves in order to do those things that make the world a more just place and to help us remember to love this world a little bit more along with everyone in it, including ourselves. I ask my last question again. What personal practice guides your growth in life? I'm going to pause once more for a few moments. Think about a practice you can hold time for against all the other things in your day, in your week. Note it in your phone, on a scrap of paper, or in your own mind. Together, the answers to these questions are what I think this congregation can help you to answer, or to live into the answers you already have more deeply. It is okay if one or more feel uncertain at this time, or even are completely unanswerable. That is the point of places such as this, to help you find the answers, or to find better answers over time. I hope you will continue to answer with me. Which group loves you? Where does justice call you? And what practice grows you? Together, may we center these three simple words: love, justice, growth. Or perhaps you want to use your own: community, justice, hope. Together, may we live into the answers we find. Together, may we encounter the change that washes over us. So may it be.